What's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we are doing the WBC Mid-Year Champions Report, as this is the third edition of edition of 2024 of the Champions Report. You know, it's my bi-monthly report. I do it every 2 months. I did it at the end of February, April, and now the middle of the year. This one's going to be a little bit different, because we're going to discuss the whole year so far for each title, and for each title belt from 122 all the way to heavyweight and the champions. And then at the end of the year, I'm going to give my bold predictions for the remainder of the year. So this one's a little bit different than the normal champions report. But let's kick it off with the 122-pound super bantamweight title, which is still currently held by the reigning WBC and undisputed super bantamweight champ, Naoya Inoue, the Monster. We know Inoue entered the year as champ. In April, he made a WBC mandatory defense against former two-division world champion Luis Nery. And Nery actually got a historic moment when he scored a knockdown in the first round on Inoue. Inoue got up though, and it almost like it angered him. He stormed into the fight, and second and third round he put Nery down, and then continued to break him down, and eventually brutally knocked him out in the sixth round, as he retained his undisputed world title with that victory. So a big win for Inoue. Now it's very unclear what Inoue is gonna do going forward. We know he's likely returning in September, but the original plan was for Inoue to defend against his WBA mandatory challenger and former unified champion Marajan Akhmadaliev. But the WBA ordered the fight, and Inoue looks like he's going to decline his mandatory defense for originally what was thought to be a showdown with former champion TJ Doheny. But a lot of people were confused by that, but according to Bob Arum, Doheny is very popular in Japan, and that's why they were leaning towards that fight instead of the MJ fight. I just heard news that Nakatani, the WBC bantamweight champ, is also in the mix for a fight with Inoue, but Nakatani's returning this month of July to defend his title, so a lot of people are thinking that maybe that one is going to be more geared towards the end of the year for Nakatani and Inoue to go at it. And we know undefeated IBF and WBO mandatory challenger Sam Goodman, who defeated TJ Doheny last year, we know he's also in the mix. So it's going to be interesting to see who comes out of that one as the front runner. I really hope it's going to be MJ Marajan Akhmadaliev. I want to see Inoue hold on to all the belts. MJ or Sam Goodman should be the guys to get the nod in September. And then if Inoue wants to defend his titles against Nakatani in December, because that's a huge month for boxing in Japan, then I'm okay with that. But he should not be fighting TJ Doheny. I like Doheny. I think part of it is because Doheny, when he won the world title back in 2019, he scored a controversial decision win over Ryosuke Iwasa of Japan, in Japan, and I know he's fought a few times over there recently and got victories, but he lost to Sam Goodman, and to be honest, he's not even in my top 10 at 122 pounds. So I think that'd be a waste, but we'll see what goes down. Next is the 126-pound featherweight title, which is still currently held by reigning champion Ray Vargas. Vargas entered the year as champ in March. He put his title on the line against undefeated Nick Ball, who was a mandatory challenger. This one took place on the Joshua undercard out in in Saudi Arabia, and these two guys went at it in a great fight. You had what's his name really outworked and was outboxing Nick Ball in the first half of the fight, and then the second half Nick Ball stormed back into the fight and put Vargas down a couple times. One of them was kind of a controversial knockdown, but he put him down a couple of times. And then when the judges it made it to the final bell, it was a tale of two halves. Nick Ball was disappointed because they scored it a draw. Now, I thought it was close enough to call either way. The two knockdowns absolutely helped Nick Ball, but I thought Ray Vargas was in firm control heading into like the 7th, 8th round. So maybe those couple knockdowns just even the fight up. But be that as it may, Ball went on to become the WBA champion. He got a title shot against Ray Ford, won that title. And Vargas has been ordered to defend his title against interim champion and former 122-pound champ Brandon Figueroa next. So we're just waiting for a date on when that fight could take place. I'm hoping, because it's a PBC card, I'm hoping it could get on a big card like Fundora and Errol Spence in October. That would be great. Or if Gervonta Davis and Vasily Lomachenko fight, that'd be good later on in the year as well. But I honestly think Fundora and Errol Spence, the undercard of that fight, makes a ton of sense for Figueroa and Vargas. So I'm hoping that fight comes to fruition and happens. We should know more by the next Champions Report at the end of August. Next at 130, super featherweight, the reigning champion there is O'Shaquie Foster. Foster entered the year as champ. In February, he made his second defense against Abraham Supernova, and fought hard against Supernova, but and it was a good, close, action-packed fight between those two guys. But at the end of the day, it was Figueroa. I mean, sorry guys, I'm drawing a blank here. At the end of the day, it was what's his name that got the victory. God damn it, I'm drawing a blank. O'Shaquie Foster got the victory on a close split decision in that one. And it was a good, tough battle right there. I think Foster did score a knockdown on Nova in the end of the fight, towards the end of the fight, and that really helped his case. But a good, close, tough battle. Now, Foster is set to return this Saturday on July 6th on an ESPN undercard to defend that title for the third time against Robson Conceição, the former 3-time world title challenger. Conceição has controversial loss to Oscar Valdez in 2021, then a controversial draw against Emmanuel Navarrete just last year for the WBO belt. He wants that world title finally, and this is a big fight right here between these two guys. I'm really looking forward to it. My prediction, since it's taking place right now before the next Champions Report, I'm picking Conceição to win a close decision over Foster, but I really do believe Foster can win this fight as well. I think it's a tough, close matchup between the two, but I am picking Conceição to be your next WBC super featherweight champ at 130. Next at 135, lightweight, the reigning undefeated champion there is Shakur Stevenson. He entered the year as champ. He has not defended the title yet, but he is set to defend the title this Saturday on July 6th in the main event of an ESPN card when he battles Artem Hardarunyan. Stevenson, this is his last fight on his Top Rank contract. He is not happy with Top Rank. He wants to put on a good performance against Hardarunyan. I think he's going to outwork and outclass him, and I think he is going to stop Hardarunyan in the late rounds of that fight, retain his WBC title, and then we'll see what he does next and who he signs with. Because right now, the best option for Stevenson after a Hardarunyan proposed victory would be, in my opinion, a unification bout with Denis Berianchik, because it looks like Lomachenko and Gervonta Tank Davis are on a collision course to fight each other to unify belts. So if Stevenson were to gobble up the WBO title, then he's a unified champ in another weight class, and he could fight the winner of Davis or Lomachenko, or if they don't end up fighting, he could get one of the two in a title unification bout to try to gobble up all the belts and become undisputed. So that should be his long-term goal. But we'll see what happens. Again, this Saturday, July 6th, Stevenson and Hardarunian for the WBC lightweight title. 140 junior welterweight. The newly crowned champion there is now Alberto Puello, who is undefeated. Devin Haney entered the year as champion, and I defended his title in April, although he ended up defending his title against nobody because Ryan Garcia didn't make weight for the fight. So the title would still be on the line for Haney, but only for Haney. So if he lost, he was supposed to lose the title. Title was supposed to go vacant. And if he won, it would be considered a successful title defense. Well, he ends up losing to Ryan Garcia, but the WBC allowed him to hold on to his belt, for a valiant effort at the beginning. And then with all the PED scandal in use, the fight was overturned to a no contest anyways. So he would have retained his belt. But Haney was very upset because he was put in a purse bid for a mandatory defense against Sandor Martin, and he was very upset that the winning purse bid was only $2.4 million total for the whole fight, which would have guaranteed him about $1.8 million, which is 75% of the purse. And he was very unhappy with that result. I guess the whole PED and loss to Ryan Garcia, the whole scandal, really emotionally upset the very fragile Devin Haney, and he decided to vacate the title. He was named champion in recess. Alberto Puello, who scored a hard-fought, close 12-round split decision over Gary Antoine Russell on June 15th, was immediately upgraded to WBC champ and has been ordered to make a mandatory defense against Sandor Martin later this year. So I'm hoping that fight lands on a big card like the Fundora and Errol Spence card in October would be great. We'll see what goes down, but I'm really looking forward to it. I know Top Rank can bid on that fight as well, so if Vasily Lomachenko and Gervonta Tank Davis end up fighting, I think there's a good chance, because Martinez with Top Rank and Puello's with the PBC, that fight could land on their undercard, which would be a good one right there. So we'll see how that one shakes out, but Puello is fighting Martin next, and then Gary Antoine Russell is guaranteed the winner of that fight at 140 right there. So a lot of moving pieces at 140. Next, the 147-pound welterweight championship is currently held. Well, Terrence Crawford entered the year as the undefeated and unified champ. He was named champion in recess, and Mario Barrios, who is the interim champion since last year, has been upgraded to welterweight champ. That happened after Barrios' interim title defense in early May, so he still has yet to officially defend the title. But the news right now for Barrios is that he could be fighting Manny Pacquiao in a big-time fight. The WBC just came out the other day and said that they would sanction the fight if Pacquiao did indeed come back. They're targeting potentially a fall bout between the two. Also on the table is a potential unification bout against who we are proposing to be the next official WBA champion, Imantas Stanionis. That's also an option on the table that people are considering for Barrios right now. So gonna be interesting to see what happens and who Barrios ends up fighting. I'm not gonna make a prediction because we do not know who he officially is gonna fight yet. Next at 154, super welterweight, the title, actually Jermell Charlo entered the year still as the champion. He ended up vacating the belt, and Sebastian Fundora was supposed to fight Sergey Bohachuk for the interim title, but yeah, for the interim belt, while Tim Tszyu I think Tim Tszyu was supposed to fight, God, who was he going to fight? He was going to fight Keith Thurman, and the title wasn't going to be on the line. Actually, Fundora was supposed to fight Bohachuk for the vacant title, period. Fundora was upgraded in late March and fought Tim Tszyu for the vacant title after Keith Thurman pulled out of the Tszyu fight with an injury on short notice. So they went at it, and Fundora would capture the vacant title and also Tszyu's WBO title to become the unified super welterweight champ. It was a very close, bloody split decision victory in that fight as he captured his first world title. Now Fundora is set to, he is going to defend his unified belts against Errol Spence Jr., the former unified welterweight champ. They're supposed to fight in October. That fight, I'm not going to make my official prediction right now, but because that fight is going to take place after the next Champions Report. But this fight has been agreed to. I'm looking forward to it. It should be good in October. Then at 160, the middleweight championship, Jermall Charlo entered the year as the undefeated champ, who hadn't defended his title in almost 3 years. Finally, the WBC wised up and stripped him after a domestic issue that he had, an arrest that he had. They finally stripped him of the belt and awarded interim champion Carlos Adames as their new champ. On June 15th, Adames would defend his title against veteran former world title challenger Terrell Gausha. It was a good fight, back and forth, kind of a chess match. Adames got out with a wider than should have been scored unanimous decision and retained the WBC belt. There's been a lot of talk about what could happen next for him. One of those is a potential unification bout with fellow champion, WBA middleweight champ Erislandy Lara, who's also a PBC fighter. There's also talk, though, that Bob Arum wants to make a unification bout between Janibek and Adames if they can work out a deal for Tank to fight Lomachenko. They want to make that an all PBC versus top ranked card. So Bob Arum would want Janibek to fight Adames to unify middleweight belts, as Janibek's already the IBF and WBO champ. So that's also granted Janibek gets by his next fight in Milošević. That's on July 13th, but most people feel he will, myself included. So those are the two hot options for Adames right now, and I really believe it's going to be one of those two guys right there. I really wholeheartedly believe that. I also think there's a possibility the WBC could order Adames to fight his mandatory challenger in Hamzat Shiraz. If that happens, it's going to be even more interesting, because then we definitely would see a unification after that, but we'll get to that later. But that's Adames, I think Lara, or I think Janibek, but a lot is revolving around the fight with Lomachenko and Tank Davis happening. So we'll see what goes down there. 168 super middleweight, the reigning WBC and undisputed world champion is Saul Canelo Alvarez. Canelo returned in May, put all four of his titles on the line against undefeated former junior middleweight champion Jaime Munguia. It was a good, solid, action-packed fight, but Canelo broke down Munguia and got a convincing 12-round unanimous decision in a competitive fight, scored a knockdown early in the fight, retained his WBC and undisputed world title. Now that his IBF mandatory challenger William Skull is taking step-aside money, it looks like Canelo is going to hold on to all his four belts. And right now, there's talk that he's going to fight Edgar Berlanga is the likely candidate, who is his WBA mandatory challenger and undefeated. It looks like he's going to fight him in September. It could be even later. But there's also talk that Jermall Charlo is still in the mix for some reason, which I think is terrible. And then Canelo could fight Terrence Crawford at the end of the year or before or at the beginning of 2025. So nothing is in concrete yet. I think he's going to fight Edgar Berlanga next in September and score, and be the favorite to win that fight. But we'll see what happens. By the next Champions Report, his fight should be locked in, and I should be making a prediction on that fight. Next is the 175-pound light heavyweight title, which is currently held by undefeated unified champ Arthur Beterbiev. Beterbiev entered the year as champ in January. He faced his WBC mandatory challenger and former super middleweight champ Callum Smith, dominated him to a 7th-round TKO victory as he retained his unified titles. Now he is set to defend against, he was supposed to fight in June and unify all 4 belts and go after undisputed against Dimitri Bivol, but he came up with an injury and that fight was postponed. Now they are good to go for October, undisputed on the line, all 4 world titles, Beterbiev versus Bivol. I'm going to give my official prediction on the next Champions Report at the end of August. Then at cruiserweight, 200 pounds, the reigning WBC champ there is Noel Gavor Mikhailian, whatever you want to call him. He was supposed to fight Ryan Rozicki. For some reason, that fight didn't happen. Now, I have no idea what's going on with Noel Gavor. I looked up any news on him. Nothing has been announced. So I'm hoping and expecting to hear some kind of news by the next Champions Report at the end of August. We'll see what happens. And finally, the heavyweight championship. Undefeated Tyson Fury entered the year as the reigning longtime champ since 2020, actually. He was supposed to fight in February against Alexander Usyk to unify all 4 belts for undisputed. The fight got postponed until May, and in May, these two put on a classic. They went at it. It was a good battle. Fury was winning the first half of the fight, outworking Usyk, and then Usyk stormed back in, hurt Fury badly in the 9th round, put him down, almost knocked him out. The fight was officially declared it went to the scorecards where Usyk would get an official 12-round split decision and become the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Now, the loser of the fight had an automatic rematch clause in the contract. Fury activated that already, and these two guys are set to return and fight each other on December 21st in a rematch for the unified heavyweight title. It's going to be good. I can't wait to see that. That's taking place in Saudi Arabia again. Really looking forward to that. And that's it. So now I'm going to give my bold predictions on every title from 122 to heavyweight for the remainder of the year. We start at 122 with Naoya Inoue, the reigning undisputed champion there. I honestly think nobody is going to beat Inoue in the ring of the 4 options that I think are on the table for 2 possible fights that are taking place between September and December of this year if Inoue sticks to his original plan. Whomever he fights in the ring, he is going to beat them. I think the only thing that is going to stop him from beating that's going to take the WBC title off of him is if he vacates the belt. That's the only way I see that happening. With the WBC belt, I think that's less likely because I do believe he wants to fight Nakatani in December. And Nakatani's a WBC 118-pound champ, and the WBC is always very lenient towards their champions, especially the ones with the big name. So I think he is probably going to still be champion by the end of the year. That's my prediction. He will beat whoever he fights in the ring and still be champion at the end of the year. 126 featherweight. Ray Vargas, will he be champ by the end of the year? My prediction is no. I think he's going to fight Brandon Figueroa. I think Brandon Figueroa is going to stop him, and Brandon Figueroa will end the year as the WBC featherweight champion. Bold prediction at 130 for super featherweight. Champion right now is O'Shaquie Foster. He's defending the belt against Robson Conceição this weekend. I think Conceição is going to unseat him and become the new WBC champion. I think there is a chance that he could fight Oscar Valdez or Emmanuel Navarrete before the end of the year, but it depends on what Navarrete decides to do, because Navarrete's been ordered by the WBO to defend his title against interim champion Oscar Valdez in a rematch. That fight probably won't take place until like October, November area, so that would eliminate a unification bout for Conceição. But if Conceição beats Foster, he might make another defense before the end of the year, but to be honest, unless it's a huge name that is going to be a heavy favorite over him, I think Conceição ends the year as your WBC champion. 135 lightweight, Shakur Stevenson is the reigning and undefeated champ. I think he's going to beat Artem Harutyunyan this Saturday, July 6th, to retain his title. And then I believe he will be a free agent and stay a free agent, and I think he will fight Dennis Beryanchuk next to unify belts. I think he will beat him, and Shakur Stevenson before the end of the year is going to be your unified WBC, WBO lightweight champion of the world and end the year as champion. 140 junior welterweight. My bold prediction there with Alberto Puello, the current champion, is that he is going to make a mandatory defense of his title. I think it's either going to take place on the Spence and what's his name undercard, Fundora undercard, or on the Lomachenko Davis card. That doesn't matter though. I think Puello will beat Sandor Martin in a close fight and end the year as the WBC junior welterweight champ. 147 welterweight. Mario Barrios, the current champion, will he end the year as champion? My answer is no. I think he's going to fight Manny Pacquiao, and I think Manny Pacquiao beats Mario Barrios. But if Barrios ends up fighting Imantas Stanionis in a title unification bout, I think Imantas Stanionis beats him as well and becomes a unified champ. But I think Barrios does have a chance in both those fights. But I do not believe Mario Barrios will end the year as a WBC welterweight champion of the world. 154 super welterweight. Sebastian Fundora is your current WBC champ there. He is set to fight Errol Spence Jr. in October. Will Fundora end the year as champion? My bold prediction is yes. I think he beats Errol Spence in October. 160 middleweight. Carlos Adames is your champion. Will he end the year as the WBC champion? My bold prediction is no. He's fighting Arislandi Lara. I think Lara's going to beat him over 12 and outwork him. If he fights Janabek, I think Janabek's going to knock him out and beat him. I do not believe Carlos Adames ends the year as champion. 168 super middleweight. Bold prediction there is that Canelo is going to defend his title against Edgar Berlanga. I think he knocks Berlanga out. And then I think he fights Terrence Crawford. If he does fight him before the end of the year, Canelo beats Crawford. Canelo will end the year as a WBC super middleweight champion of the world at 168. 175 light heavyweight. My bold prediction there, will Arthur Beterbiev end the year as champion? My bold prediction is no. I think Dimitri Bivol is going to beat Arthur Beterbiev in October, become the WBC and undisputed light heavyweight champion of the world. 200 pounds, cruiserweight. My bold prediction there, does Noel Gavor end the year as champion? My bold prediction, no. And I'll tell you why. For some reason, because Gilberto Ramirez is fighting Chris Billum-Smith next, likely they're going to fight each other unified belts. I think Jairo Pitaya and his people are going to offer Noel Gavor a shitload of money to fight on one of the big undercards, Beterbiev Bivol or Fury and Usyk by the end of the year. And he will attempt to unify belts, and Jairo Pitaya beats Noel Gavor Mikhailian in unified belts. He will not. I think Jairo Pitaya ends the year as WBC champion. And then heavyweight. Alexander Usyk is the new WBC heavyweight champ. Will he end the year as champion? He fights Tyson Fury in December in a rematch. My answer is no. Tyson Fury will regain the WBC title with a victory over Alexander Usyk. Up to this point, we have had 5 new champions, but 3 of those belts, those title changes, have taken place because of upgrades. So some of the champions have been solid, but prepare for more titles to be changed in the WBC with the green belt. I'm really looking forward to seeing the second half of the year for the WBC titles from 122 all the way to heavyweight. This has been the WBC's mid-year champions report. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. you've been hit with the truth.